It's October 16th, 2023, and these are your headlines. A new poll out today shows that embattled House Speaker Dade Phelan is hemorrhaging support among likely Republican voters inside his own House district. The poll, which was commissioned by the Defend Texas Liberty PAC, reveals that 49% of voters in Dade Phelan's district have an unfavorable opinion of him, while 35% have a favorable opinion. That new polling shows a gradual slide since the beginning of the year. For example, in January, the same poll found that Phelan had 66% favorability with only 10% unfavorability. In May, that number slid to 36% favorable with 29% unfavorable. Luke Macias, the PAC's director, says he stands by the results and challenged Dade Phelan to provide a different poll with different results if he disagreed. In fact, Defend Texas Liberty PAC has put out a series of polls that seem to be pretty accurate, not only on statewide Republican voters, but inside certain House members' districts as well, especially inside of Dade Phelan's own House district, which is located in southeast Texas. Now, this drop in popularity comes after, of course, a legislative session this year where Phelan antagonized conservative voters, not just in his district, but across the state, by appointing Democrats to lead powerful House committees while failing to pass legislation on a variety of key issues such as, banning Chinese ownership of Texas land, school choice, border security, some of these that they're back for a third special session right now as we talk. He also helped spearhead the failed impeachment of Attorney General Ken Paxton, which has caused Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, Donald Trump, the Republican Party of Texas, the list goes on, to call for his resignation. It's also important to note, by the way, this same poll, the same likely Republican voters inside his district, shows that voters inside his district have a 50% favorable opinion of Attorney General Ken Paxton, with only 26% holding an unfavorable view. And yet Phelan, of course, spearheaded and ultimately voted to impeach him. Phelan, meanwhile, has drawn two challengers in the Republican primary. Looks like he's not going to just receive challenges potentially from inside the House for his own speakership, but he could potentially be in jeopardy when the March primary takes place later next year. A group of lawmakers are calling for Texas House parliamentarian Hugh Brady to be suspended following what they have referred to as an appearance of impropriety surrounding his association with a law firm hired to help kill conservative priorities. In a letter sent to House Speaker Dade Phelan, sent by State Representative Steve Toth, Brian Harrison, and Tony Tinderholt, they point out that Brady's partnership with the law firm Brady and Peavy is problematic because that firm was hired by Harris County this session for, quote, matters pending before the 88th session of the Texas legislature. In other words, as they put it, to dig up parliamentary errors to kill conservative legislation. Additionally, the lawmakers note that the firm was also hired by the city of Austin. And Peavy, his partner, is a registered lobbyist. Certainly looks like a potential conflict of interest. The group of lawmakers argue that since Mr. Brady's role is similar to that of an umpire on the House floor, his firm's financial incentive appears to create a conflict of interest. But Brady's been around the House for a little while. In fact, the problem even goes back to before Phelan was Speaker. Brady was initially appointed as parliamentarian by former Speaker Dennis Bonnen in 2019. However, his association with Democrats raised questions even back then. A consistent Democrat voter, according to election records, Brady served as general counsel for the White House Office of Administration under President Barack Obama. That was from 2014 to 2017, as well as serving as parliamentarian for the Travis County Democrat Party right here in Austin. When Phelan became Speaker in 2021, he retained Brady in his parliamentarian position. Now, it's important to note that while a lot of attention is put on the parliamentarian, and certainly for good reason, when you hear about points of order, for example, that can kill legislation, send it back to committee, as we've seen done time and time again, recently, of course, with border security legislation during the regular session earlier this year, a lot of attention gets pointed towards the House parliamentarians, to include Hugh Brady, especially because of his Democrat ties. But it's important to note that Brady's role is only advisory. When it comes to the actual decisions that are being made, let us not forget, It is the Speaker and the Speaker alone that has the final say in whether or not he's going to rule for a point of order and thus kill the bill, or whether he's going to overrule it. That's a decision that rests solely with the Speaker. And yet, of course, we continue to see increased attention on Hugh Brady. So far, Speaker Phelan has not responded to any requests for comment on the matter. Lastly, I want to point this out. Last month, if you saw it, Texas Scorecard launched a 4-part investigative series looking at predators in government schools. That series exposed how educator sexual misconduct had made the state's government schools a hostile learning environment. It also exposed multiple allegations of government school districts either covering up or ignoring red flags around bad actors targeting students. There are more dangers, unfortunately. Children and youth are already vulnerable to adults. However, there's a segment of our population that is particularly vulnerable, those in need of special care. So, this week, Texas Scorecard is releasing a new investigative series looking at how Texas schools are failing special needs students. Part 1 is already out. We're going to have more stories out each day as the week progresses. You can see those as well as the latest news of the day at texasscorecard.com.
No ads, no paywalls, no government grants, and no corporate masters. Just real news for real Texans. This is Texas Scorecard.